oriented kind. So I see everybody standing and think, oh, you didn't get the cue to sit. So good. But Hope Coffee is something we've been a part of for about 2 years, and the donations go directly towards the ministry. So Hope Coffee works as a mediator. The proceeds go to missionaries on the field to work with churches which work with the locals in that area. So it is a way of funding missionaries and churches in Mexico and Honduras is where they started out. But Hope Coffee has grown significantly over the last couple of years that I've noticed, just as far as their product line and what they're able to offer. They've expanded into teas, so they're in Africa as well. So it's just been a great experience to be a part of watching Hope Coffee grow. It's been a great experience to watch the church be a part of that. You guys support Hope Coffee extremely well. We buy Hope Coffee off of donations, like we have a donations jar out there. And then at the end of the year, whatever is left over, we give back to Hope Coffee. This past December, we had a little over $900. I said $800 in the first service, so you guys get better information. We ended up giving close to $1,000 back to Hope Coffee to help specifically build a house for Pastor Carlos and his family, which Brother Darrell will share a little bit more about. We have a video, though, of the pictures of building that house, and then after that, Brother Darrell and his wife Kimberly will come up and speak with us this morning. So. This is a silent video. There's supposed to be sound with it, but that's okay. Don't start it over. Just let the slides go. All it is music, so it's nothing special. But I just wanted to break the awkward silence. You guys are all wondering. There's supposed to be sound here, so yes, there is. But as soon as it's over, if you guys will come up. So.
Okay, good morning, church. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here with you guys today. We are Kim and Darrell Prusha. We are from Puebla, Mexico, where we are so absolutely excited to share with you what God's been doing the last 9 years that we've been there. And we're going to talk today just a little bit about God testing our faith as believers. I'll give you a biblical example first, and then Darrell will go into details about how that looks like in our faith walk in Mexico. So to start off, I know that there's been tragedy, and God uses sometimes tragedy in our lives, and you guys have really experienced that living through these last few months with the tornadoes, right? You've seen maybe your home or your property or your family or friend's property damaged, and we're originally from Nebraska, And our hometown is Fremont. You might have heard about it or seen some of the damage that's happened in and around Fremont. It's just a little itty bitty town, and all the highways and byways around Fremont were just destroyed. There was no way to get to Fremont on any of the roads. And a lot of people work in Omaha, which is just down the road a piece, and they had to actually helicopter people from Omaha back to Fremont because there was no other way to get them there until they could wait for the waters to recede. And so now I know as a church you all are just looking towards your neighbors to try and help them recover, and family probably, from these horrible tornadoes. We took a quick trip through the town yesterday and saw some of the damage, and I know that's probably just a small part of what's gone on in your guys' lives. And so God uses these kind of opportunities to speak to us, because usually by then we were kind of broken, right? And God has these promises just waiting for our lives if we would just faithfully follow Him. And so sometimes it takes a disastrous situation to make us more willing. And then He can have a time to come in and talk to us. And sometimes He shares with us a new task. And in the Bible, in Hebrews 11:7, by faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is keeping with faith. Noah, when God went to Noah and said, build an ark, what do you think Noah thought? What's an ark? That would have been my question, right? Well, in Mexico, we are martial artists, and God gave us an opportunity to roast coffee. So imagine when martial artists have a chance to roast coffee. We were kind of like, what are you doing, Lord?
So, a new task. That was kind of surprising for me when one of my coworkers from Honduras came to Mexico and said, hey, I'd like you to try this ministry, this project. We're gonna give you, we're gonna give you some money to do a project. You need to find the project and then initiate it to completion. And I'm going, wait a minute, martial arts, I was a state trooper, I'm like, coffee, I know how to drink it, I know how to prepare it, but roast it, sell it, that's a new thing that God put in our lives. So in 2017, we started projects. We found a project with one of our martial art students. This family needed water in their house, so we built a tower to put up this water tank so the gravity fed back into the house, had to put the piping in and all that. Finding the project was easy. Initiating the project was a little bit harder because we needed a church. Somebody that could come alongside, I couldn't do it all myself. And so I found a church, and then I also found a ministry partner. Here in the middle is my partner Abelardo, which also is the name for Big Bird from Sesame Street in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And so I have fun teasing him sometimes. And Abelardo was a chemist with Johnson & Johnson. And so here we are, a martial artist, ex-state trooper, and a chemist. And God says, here we go. So He put us together. And as we started working through this project, we completed it. And then we actually hired Abelardo to manage our projects for us. And then at Christmas time, 2017, we got a call from a pastor that said, hey, I have this roaster for you. And all you have to do is come and pick it up. And we're going, nah, Lord, what is going on? This is something new. And this pastor says, don't worry, I'm going to teach you how to do this. And so now we're both nervous, but this pastor comes And he teaches us how to roast coffee, and he teaches us how to grind it, and then he says, oh, now we need to take another trip. And we need to go to the state of Chiapas, which was about a 12-hour drive. But we had to go past his house first, which was in another state, the state of Tabasco. And we went there, and we drank some coffee in his coffee shop. And then we went to Chiapas, and we went to a coffee farm where we met Pastor Sergio, whose Timothy was a missionary, a young pastor from Honduras named Carlos. See where this is going? How it all comes together? And then Carlos has a need. Carlos is living in this shack out of wood and a metal roof, and the rainy season's coming and it's dripping on him, and it's dripping on his family. And so Abelardo says to me, hey, you know, we're hearing about Carlos having this need. We need to build a house for him. And so we started praying about this house for Carlos. And then we also talked with the president of Hope Coffee. Is there any way we could get a little bit of money so that we can help him build this house? And so you guys were that answer to prayer. And so it's our pleasure to be here today to share about what God is doing through Hope Coffee. 2017 we did, 2018, last year we did 14 projects in total. We sold a few hundred pounds of coffee down there and more up here. Through that, people have been coming to Christ. Last year alone, at least 6 people in Mexico that I can remember. And then probably another half a dozen yet this year have already come to Christ. Actually in Chiapas, because Carlos and Pastor Sergio have been going out to their villages and handing out water filters, which has opened up the door, and they've been able to share the love of Christ by doing different projects because of money from Hope Coffee. In Hebrews 11:1, it says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. We just had confidence that God was going to provide. And so it's just been a fun challenge over the last couple of years getting to where we are.
Okay, so the second test of faith is kind of a major change, and I think we've all seen these major changes recently. And it causes us to say, where, Lord? Where? And, excuse me, where are we going with this? And does he necessarily have to give us explanations for everything he does? No, right? He's God. If he explained everything to us, would that make it hurt any less? No, right? It still hurts the same. So in our humanist self, we always are wondering, where are we going, Lord? How will I know when I get there? And how will I get there? And the usual answer is, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Living by faith is not always knowing what or how.
I'm going to introduce you to Pastor Miguel. Pastor Miguel's probably the bravest pastor I know. Miguel came into a martial arts school and challenged the instructor to come to his village and start a new school. And so Miguel was from San Nicolas, Buenos Aires, Puebla, which happens to be 65 miles approximately. But because Puebla is so big, it can take me an hour and a half just to get out of the city because of traffic. So it can take me 2 hours, or it can take me 3 hours to get to Miguel's place. Miguel came in and said, Maestro, instructor, I'd like you to start a school in my village. Miguel had heard about us through Hope Coffee. Imagine that. We had actually done a project with another pastor in his village or close. And so I knew where it was. And I'm like, where? You gotta be kidding me. And he goes, no, I'm serious. And I go, Miguel, why do you need us there? And he's like, well, the kids, the youth in our village, they have soccer, but they don't have any other sports. They're active sexually, they're active in drinking and taking drugs, and we want to provide them more. And so I said, okay, those are good reasons. And I go, but it's so far away. I really don't feel God calling me. And he goes, that's why I'm here, because God told me to invite you. And I'm like, you're crazy. And so we went around and around, and he kept challenging me to come. And so I finally said, okay, Miguel, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do an exhibition, a demonstration in your town, and get everybody around to participate. And so we decided to do that in December of last year. No, December 2000, yeah.
Last year.
18. And no, 2017.
17.
2017, December 2017, we did the exhibition. And when we started it, there was nobody there. I mean, we could see them around the park where we were at, but then when we got going and my other students were having a great time, and all of a sudden we had like 120 people hanging out with us and participating and giving kicks on these bags and all sorts of fun things. And then when we finished, Miguel says, what else? And I go, get a list, Miguel, and we'll see how many people are on that list that are really interested. And so my oldest son was with us, and he goes, Dad, how many people do you want on that list? And I said, well, minimum 65, because only about half of them will actually sign up or show up for class. And so then Miguel comes back and goes, Maestro, there's 70 people on this list. And my son just starts laughing at me and goes, what are you going to tell Mom? And I go, I'm not telling her anything, because this is God's doing, not mine. And so God just leads us sometimes where we don't want to go. And so all to say, you can see the pictures here. This school in San Nicolas, Buenos Aires, minimum 2-hour drive, is growing. There's roughly 50 students. At the end of class, we circle up and we have a little bit of mat time. And our branch tenets are actually the fruits of the Spirit. And then we take one of those fruits of the Spirit and then we kind of apply it to our lives using biblical principles without actually opening the Bible. And now we can see how they're actually applying it. And Miguel has actually told me before I came up here that his church was starting to grow. And it's also given him other opportunities to do other projects through Hope Coffee. But also that, I mean, his church is growing and people are coming to know Christ because of that. It gives him more opportunities to share. So faith is following God's leading without knowing where.
Okay, so for the third test is a delayed promise. When, Lord? In Hebrews 11:9 through 10, by faith he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundation, whose architect and builder is God. Okay, so delayed promises. We all have those promises that we thought we would just wish God would answer, just like right now. And God says, not yet. There are 7,000 promises, over 7,000 promises in the Bible that God has all of eternity to fulfill, and we just need to be patient. And really, it's really, really difficult when you're going through something and there seems to be no end in sight, right? Like, when will we get the roof fixed that's been broken by this tornado? When do we get this replaced, right? But God is always faithful and we need to trust in Him.
So moving to Mexico was not an easy thing for us. We gave up quite a bit. But for several years, we had been praying for a house that was big enough to do ministry the way we really wanted to. So one of Kim's prayers was that it would have a yard. And a lot of times the houses down there will be built and it's all wall, place to park, cement slabs everywhere, and no green grass. And so that was one of her prayers. Mine was that there would be a place where we can invite people into the house, eat with them, do Bible studies, and maybe even have 50 people in a house at one time doing Bible study. And that has happened. And so in November, God answered that prayer. I wanted a place where we could roast coffee. And so we have a yard. We have space to do ministry and Bible studies, or have friends and family over and just live life with them. The picture in the middle where people are at the table, that is our family at Thanksgiving. That was our first Thanksgiving in the house, and we had our daughter-in-law and her family come over, and so we got to hang out and enjoy the house for the first time. It also has a parking area that's big enough to actually do martial arts in, but at the end of that parking area is a storage shed that is big enough to roast coffee in. So how did this come about? So I'm delivering coffee one day and at the local seminary, and this guy walks up and says, "Hey, Daryl, I've got your house for you." And I'm going, "I'm not looking for a house." He goes, "No, I'm serious. I got this house for you." And I go, "Okay, so tell me about it." He goes, "Well, it has a yard. It has 4+ bedrooms, so 5 bedrooms. And it has this area, this parking area that could probably be used for martial arts, but better yet, it has a storage building that could be used for roasting coffee." And so we said, "Yeah, sure, we'll go look at it." And it met all our expectations. And so faith for us is waiting for God's timing.
Okay, so the last test that we're going to be able to talk about is an unsolvable problem. And we're going to look in Hebrews 11 through 12 for this. "And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she was considered him faithful who had made the promise." 12. "And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and as countless as the sand on the seashore." And of course, they're talking about Abraham there. Abraham was no young chicken, right? And neither was Sarah when God blessed him with a child. Can you imagine? I was just kind of thinking about this, going to a restaurant and going up to the hostess, and she, of course, would ask, "Name?" And he'd say, "Abraham." She's like, "Wow, that's a really interesting name. What's it mean?" "Father of many nations." "Oh, that's really interesting. That's really cool. How many children do you have?" 0. Right? So Abraham had to live through the process of not knowing how or when or why.
So not having kids with that kind of name is a big challenge. Well, our unsolvable problem is a new location, well, a new house, a new neighborhood, and all our ministries are far away. And we also have a son that decided that he wanted to stay in Mexico and not return to the United States. And so he needed something to do. And so we got to talking with our son David about maybe teaching English. He wanted to start an English club at one of the local universities with some of his friends. And we're like, okay, that's great. So we helped him get certified to teach English as a second language. And then my wife said, well, you know, since he's doing that, I'll go ahead and help teach English. Awesome. So we're in a new neighborhood. How are we going to reach out to our neighbors? And now we have English, but we didn't have a place to teach it. Well, we have the house. We can invite neighbors into the house. But I got in touch with a friend from Colorado, and he actually teaches ESL or English in Guatemala at least twice a year. He goes for eight weeks. And he said, hey, I'd be interested in come down and talking with you guys, but here's your challenge. Find a place that we can rent so that we can teach English in it. And so he came down last month, and we had found a house, and we took him over to show it, and he goes, this is perfect. It had 2 bedrooms, it had a big dining or living room area, and then the parking area, which is right in the middle there. And he says, hey, let's do it. And so we talked to the owners, and then this guy paid 6 months of rent, and then said, I'm coming back down in September, and we'll start classes, and we'll go ahead and I'll pay another year or 6 months at that time for rent. So there was an unsolvable problem for us that God answered a prayer. With this learning center, we now have another challenge. How to reach out, we have 2 teachers, but how do we do more activities in this neighborhood? And so, as I was talking with Pastor Zach, we came up with an idea. We'd like to invite you guys as a church. Now, I heard you're going to Guatemala, or a group is going to Guatemala, but we'd like to invite you to come down and help us do ministry. Not just hear about what Hope Coffee is doing because of you buying and drinking coffee, but actually come and serve alongside us, and while you're there, we'll roast some coffee and we'll drink it too. I'd like to quickly introduce the whole family. There we go. So the guy up in the middle, that's our oldest son, Dylan, and the young lady there in the brown that looks pregnant, she was at that time. That's his wife, Rebecca. They've been married a little over 2 years, actually getting ready to celebrate their 3rd anniversary. And Rebecca and Dylan now have a baby boy named Asher. The tall guy is David, who's sitting over here. And then Donovan is right next to him in the checkered shirt. And the other young man is Dathan. And Dathan isn't with us right now. He's now on his way to Texas. He just got out of a martial arts camp and is going back down to Texas with one of the martial arts instructors to do some work. So he has a little extra spending money for the things that he likes to do. And then one last picture. We wouldn't be good grandparents if we didn't show our grandson, baby Asher. Okay.
I am thankful that they came to share with us and to have personal contact as a church. I hope that you take the opportunity to get to know them more as they're here with us. I pray that as a church we'll be continuing to pray for them. We're going to take the opportunity and pray over them as we dismiss this time, and the praise team is going to lead us in worship. As we move into the invitation, I'll be up here if you want to come pray with me, and you're welcome to, and then we'll dismiss. But as a church, let's take some time and pray over Daryl and his wife, Kimberly. Father God, thank you for ministry. God, thank you for the opportunities that you give us. God, I pray for us as a church as we continue to partner with ministries, with missionaries, with mission opportunities. God, that you would keep the vision of sharing the gospel to every tribe, tongue, and nation. God, that you'd keep that before us, and may it be a passion of our hearts. God, as it's a passion for yours. God, I pray for Brother Daryl and his wife Kimberly, God, and his family as they continue to minister in Mexico. God, I pray that you'd bless them with encouragement and with answers to prayer. God, even as we've heard in their testimony just time and time again of your faithfulness. Lord, may that be something that we hold on to as well. God, knowing that you are a faithful God. Lord, as we bring our requests to you, you answer. God, it may not always be in the way that we want to or even think that you're going to answer, but God, you truly are intimately acquainted with all of our ways. May we rest in that. God, I pray for Brother Daryl and his family, God, that they would be able to rest in you as they continue through these ministries, God, as they continue to touch lives. Bless them, God. I pray for us as a church that we would be faithful in prayer alongside of them. Lord, it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.